The Republican convention starts 2 weeks from Monday, so the Veep watch for Mitt Romney is in full force. We have Colleen McCain Nelson in Washington this morning to talk about one person they're saying would be the safe choice, Tim Pawlenty. Colleen, good morning.
Good morning.
So why do they call Tim Pawlenty, the former Minnesota governor, the safe choice?
Well, he appears to check off a lot of the boxes that Mitt Romney is likely looking for. Romney and Pawlenty have similar political experience. They're both former governors from Democratic-leaning states. Pawlenty has been one of the most visible surrogates for Romney, so it certainly appears that Romney is comfortable having Pawlenty speak on his behalf. And they have similar political views. And one key difference between Romney and Pawlenty that might be appealing to Romney is Pawlenty has a little bit more kind of everyman appeal. He has a blue-collar background. When he ran for governor, he was fond of saying that the Republican Party should be the party of Sam's Club and not just country clubs. And so Pawlenty may be able to kind of make the pitch that he's the guy you want to have a beer with. He's a little more relatable, and that might be a good thing to add to the Romney ticket. As
you mentioned that, Colleen, some people say, okay, if we're talking about safe choices, what about Rob Portman in Ohio? He would be a safe choice, but comes from a state that matters a lot more. And yet, does it have something to do maybe with the background? I've read that it's Tim Pawlenty's background versus Rob Portman.
From Ohio, it certainly is believed to be a contender as well. He's certainly under consideration. One consideration there is that Rob Portman was in the Bush administration, and Mitt Romney isn't very favorable to talking a lot about the Bush administration. You don't hear Romney mention Bush a lot on the campaign stump. You don't hear him defending Bush's policies. So if you add Rob Portman to the ticket, he might be forced to do a little bit more of that. He might be forced to talk more about George Bush. So that's something to think about as you look at Rob Portman. Ohio's definitely an important state. I guess the question is whether you think that that voters vote for the person at the top of the ticket or whether they vote for the vice presidential candidate. And a lot of polling shows that even when you add someone from a particular state to the ticket, that doesn't necessarily give you a big bump in terms of having a better chance of winning that state. So it's not clear that adding Rob Portman to the ticket would necessarily bring Ohio into the Romney column.
Okay, well, and tell us about star power. How important is that to get folks excited about the Romney ticket? Because Tim Pawlenty does not bring that.
That is the knock on Tim Pawlenty. People say that maybe he's a little too bland, maybe he's a little too Minnesota nice, and he was briefly a candidate for president, and one of his downfalls when he was a candidate, he kind of famously coined the term Obamacare when he was running against Romney for the Republican nomination, and people thought that might have some traction, that he might be able to make some headway with that. But then when he debated Romney, he wasn't willing to say that. He wasn't willing to go on the attack. And so there is a little concern that perhaps he's a little bland, that maybe he wouldn't want to be in the attack dog role, or maybe that he just wouldn't get voters that fired up.
Maybe he was angling for a VP position very early on. Who knows? Another person just who's been in the news very recently, knock this down if it has to be, David Petraeus, CIA director and, of course, former general.
Right. We had the report this week from the Drudge Report suggesting that perhaps Petraeus was in the mix. But I have to say this is several degrees of separation from being a really well-reported article. Basically, the Drudge Report said that unnamed sources claim that President Obama told a fundraiser that Mitt Romney would like to have Petraeus as his VP. Of course, this doesn't attribute that to anybody. The White House has said unequivocally Obama has never said that, and even if he had said that, that doesn't mean that it's true or that Romney actually wants Petraeus or that Petraeus is interested. So, I mean, the Drudge Report a few weeks ago suggested that Condi Rice was going to be the pick. We've seen no indication since then that Condi Rice is going to be the pick, and so the Drudge Report has thrown out a couple different things like this that so far have not seemed to be true, but I guess we could be surprised.
Well, keep us talking. Thanks so much for joining us, Colleen. Of course, the Republican convention begins in 2 weeks from Monday.